You're gonna need 2 things from Dollar Tree, this orange jar and some soap. You're gonna take out your soap container. You're gonna pull out the tube that's inside of the dispenser. Next, you're gonna need something sharp. I'm using some wire cutters that I have. I'm gonna poke a hole in the center of my jar and I'm gonna start pulling back the metal. This is pretty easy to do with these lids from Dollar Tree. You're gonna use your wire cutters to continue to pull the back of the lid until the top portion of the soap container fits in perfectly. Once you get it to fit in, just add some E6000 to hold it in place. Then you're going to take your lid outside, spray it with 2 coats of a flat black spray paint. And I find that if I put it in a jar or a little plastic cup, it's a lot easier to spray paint. From there, fill it with your favorite soap, add the lid, and you have a perfect soap container to last you the fall season. All right, so this next DIY is a little bit out of the box, but when I was walking down the beauty aisle at Dollar Tree, I spotted this loofah, and I tell you guys, I thought this looks exactly like a pumpkin. So we're gonna make a pumpkin out of this loofah. So you're gonna cut off the handle, then you're gonna spray paint your loofah whatever color you want. I went with a brown color. You're gonna spray the bottom of it, let that dry, flip it over, and then spray the top. I really like the look of a natural handle on my pumpkins, so I found this stick that I had bought back in the spring from Five Below. It was a little long, so I used my hacksaw to cut it in half. I also had a leaf that I found from one of my florals, and I'm gonna hot glue the leaf in place, and then I will hot glue the stem and hold it till it's completely dry. This is a quick and easy pumpkin you can make, and I love the way it turned out. $5 for one of these big cinnamon sticks. I have a great DIY for this. I'm really excited to create a high-end dupe for this broom that I saw at Pottery Barn. I picked up 2 to make this DIY a little bit fuller and more substantial. I'm gonna place the 2 brooms on top of each other, and I'm gonna cut off any threads that are sticking out. Then I'm gonna grab some twine that I had in my stash. I'm gonna start wrapping the twine around where the existing twine was to hold them together. I'm gonna do this on all the areas where the broom previously had twine. This is going to help make my broom look seamless and you wouldn't be able to tell it was 2 brooms. Next, to give it that glow, I picked up some fairy lights from Dollar Tree. I picked up 2 packs. This was kind of trial and error. I started weaving the lights in and out at the bottom. Then as I went up, I decided to just start wrapping the lights around, kind of crisscrossing the lights as I went, making sure that the battery pack was going to be in the back where I was going to set it against the wall. I absolutely love how this broom turned out. It might be my new favorite fall DIY. When I got to Dollar Tree, I also found these adorable little acorns, so I ended up grabbing 2 of them. So I'm gonna paint the bases of them with that nomadic desert color. I wanted them to be very neutral, very matte. And of course, I couldn't get through a Dollar Tree video without using some nautical rope. So that's what we're gonna be using to wrap the top portion. So all you're gonna do is put some hot glue on the back and start wrapping around the nautical rope. If you can, add your glue to the back. That's just gonna make the whole final project look better. I'm gonna keep wrapping it until I've covered the entire piece all the way up to the little stem. Now again, these are great to put out with plants or books or other groupings that you have. So just put them out with your already existing decor. You're gonna need a clear jar, a Dollar Tree glass container, and a knob. This knob I already had on hand from a project at IKEA. E6000 your knob to the top of your jar lid. Then you're gonna take your jar lid and your other glass container outside and spray it with 2 coats of black spray paint. Next, you're gonna flip your black jar upside down. You're gonna put some E6000 on the bottom and then put the clear jar on top. If you haven't guessed already, we're making a candy jar. So all you have to do from here is fill it with some of your favorite candy. You can put the black lid on top. This is perfect for the Halloween season. Oh, this is my owl, you guys. This is one of my most popular Dollar Tree DIYs on my channel. Super cute. Now, I found these cute little owls when I was shopping at Dollar Tree. They're so adorable, had to pick them up. Here's a simple DIY that you can do to update them. So grab your favorite chalk paint. I'm using Waverly white chalk paint. I'm gonna paint 2 coats on the owl. Once it has a chance to dry, I'm gonna come back in with sandpaper and pull out all the detail. It really helps the owl stand out and it gives it a whole fresh new look. I'm going to be using 2 shades of my gold rub and buff. I find that when you combine 2 shades, it really gives the piece more dimension. So I'm going to be mixing the 2 colors together, adding it on to my existing plastic. I did get a little bit on the glass. That's okay, you can wipe that up. This was a subtle change to this clock, but I love the way the finish turned out. I absolutely love the look of terracotta for fall. I think it looks so high end. So I found these ceramic pumpkins at Dollar Tree and I thought, let's try to make them look a little bit more high end. Make sure you give it plenty of time to dry. So mine sat completely overnight. I'm gonna mix water with my Waverly white chalk paint and use a foam brush to add that to the outside of my pumpkins. Then I'm gonna immediately wipe it off with a paper towel because I want it to just have a little bit of a white finish to it to distress it just a little bit. You can do this as much or as little as you like. After that, I let them completely dry and here's how they look styled. How adorable are these trays? I definitely think we could DIY with them. The largest one is $12, the smaller one is $10. Trays are one of my favorite items to update and DIY. You can really give them a high-end look. So with this tray, I'm gonna be adding some cane to the base of it. And at first I wasn't sure exactly how I was going to put it on there. So I cut a big piece and then I kind of just started to eyeball how I was going to put it in. And I tried a couple of methods. One method was just kind of cutting it. That wasn't working very well. Then I decided to kind of mark it where I wanted to cut it out and then cut out where I marked it. From there, I did also fold it in a bit so I could see where that fold line was, and then I could cut that line off. Just keep working with it until you can get it to fit in your tray as evenly as possible. And then I'm gonna use hot glue around the edges to hold it in place. Next up, I'm going to paint the base of it with ink by Waverly. I'm going to be using a foam brush and I'm going to have to dab it on there pretty thick just because I'm trying to get through 2 layers to cover it. I'm also going to add paint to the inner sides, and if you get any paint on the top, that's okay. Just take a wet paper towel and immediately wipe it off. Let this dry and then you have a beautiful tray to sit out for the fall season. I saw these on a high-end site and I thought I could definitely recreate them. You're gonna need 2 jars. I'm using the orange ones. You're also going to need a black paint pen. I love any project where I can be creative. I started by drawing some ovals down vertically on my jars. Then I went back in and put hash marks all the way around. Let these jars sit out and dry. Now with my other jar, I decided to create some wavy lines. This was really fun to do, but you could do any design, any pattern that you want. For the lids, I'm gonna use 2 stems that I had from another pumpkin. I'm gonna hot glue those to my jars. I'm gonna spray paint the lids with 2 coats of a black spray paint. I'll just add the lids to my jar and here's how they turned out. I was so excited to find the acorn beads this year at Dollar Tree. They're gonna be such a popular item. I have a great DIY for them. I'm gonna be creating a garland with my acorn beads, so I need to start by drilling a hole into the beads. So I'm gonna use my drill and drill a hole. I'm gonna split my beads into 2 categories. With half of the beads, I'm going to dye them with a navy color. Then I'm going to put in half of my acorn beads, close the lid, and I'm gonna kind of shake them up. I let them sit in this container for about 15 minutes. After the 15 minutes was up, I put the acorns out on a plate so that they could dry completely. I didn't rinse them or do anything to them. I let them dry overnight. Came back the next day, and now it's time to add them to my garland. So I'm gonna be using twine for this DIY. I tied it in a knot at the end of the twine, and then I'm gonna place the beads onto my twine. So I used 5 dark beads and then switched to 5 natural beads. And then I went back and forth until I used up the majority of my beads. Once I got to the end, I tied those in a knot as well. These beads would work great for a fireplace or centerpiece. So when I was strolling through Dollar Tree, I came across these wood frames with wood beads. I almost lost my mind. I was so excited that Dollar Tree had these. So I picked up 3 of them and knew that I had to do a fall project with these. Now they just seemed really neutral, so I want to kind of stick with that neutral tone. So I took the backs off of them. Then I was looking around Dollar Tree for some craft paper. I couldn't find it, but I did find this wrapping paper, and on the back it was plain, so I just grabbed this. And I'm going to trace around the craft paper, cut it out, and I'm gonna hot glue it to the base of these frames. Next, I pulled out my Cricut Joy, which if you guys have been watching any of my videos, it's my favorite Cricut. I can easily create something on my phone and then print it on my Cricut Joy. So I went on my phone and I just grabbed 3 images of pumpkins. I measured the frames and determined I didn't want any of them to be longer than 4 inches. I resized all of the pumpkins to be around 4 inches. I sent them to my printer and cut them out on a white smart vinyl. Next, I'm just gonna pull those Cricut decals off and I'll place them onto the craft paper. Then I'll just simply put the backings of the frames back on. And you can see how cute these look in a grouping of 3 on my wall. I found these adorable name cards at Dollar Tree that are perfect for fall. I wanted to create them for my fall table. So all I did was I went into my Cricut design space, put in the names that I wanted to cut out, sent them to cut, and then the vinyl that I'm gonna be cutting on is black permanent vinyl by HTV Rond. I'm gonna place that vinyl onto my mat, cut it out. Then I'm gonna weed it out. The cool thing about the HTV vinyl is it actually comes with transfer paper, so after I weed it out, I can put the transfer paper on top and then pull off the backing and place it onto my name cards. Really wanted to set up a fall table. I'm gonna show you how you can do it super inexpensively. I like to start with the centerpiece. Find like a big statement item. These are some pumpkins I've had for years. They're from a store called Old Time Pottery if you're from Kansas City. I'm gonna put 3 in the middle of my table. Next, let's add a little bit of height. I love using these candle sticks. These are thrifted and you can add in some tapered candles. Inexpensive greenery, that's the key to really elevate any centerpiece. Hide your stems underneath. your candles as well as your pumpkins. How cute are these fabric pumpkins? I'm gonna add these around. It's just gonna give a little bit more texture and detail.
Liz, do you have an order to where you're placing the pumpkins, or are you just placing these randomly?
I don't want them to look like every other color, so you want it to look a little bit random, but another thing I like to do, like for instance here, there's kind of a hole in my greenery, so that kind of fills in that hole. So just kind of place them around until you think it looks good. Like I really don't feel like I need any more, so I'm not gonna add them. So don't feel like you have to add all the pumpkins. Now my place settings are gonna be so simple. I'm gonna use these Dollar Tree charger plates. I'm gonna use my Dollar Tree plates. It's gonna be really simple.
Liz, what are you going to put on these cute little pumpkin trays?
I thought these would be great to add just a cute little treat. So I have one that takes less than a minute to put together. What you're gonna need are some vanilla wafers, Hershey Kisses, chocolate chips, and a little bit of icing. So pick out a vanilla wafer, add some icing to the back of it, then you're gonna add your Hershey's Kiss, flip it over, put a little bit more icing on the top, add in your chocolate chip, then you have an adorable little acorn. Oh no, this is kind of broken. Do you guys remember this that I made 2 years ago?
I think it's been 2 years.
I think it has. This was a fun DIY. I'm gonna have to put that one back together. I grabbed one of these pumpkin wreath forms at Dollar Tree. You're also going to need some twine as well. So I started with my twine at the very top. I'm gonna hot glue it on, and then I'm just going to start wrapping it around the top portion to cover my stem. Next, I wanted to wrap the outer portion of my wreath. So I'm just going to wrap it around, hot gluing periodically. You're gonna need some beads for this. I suggest grabbing them on Amazon. I'll put the ones that I use down in the description box. So you're gonna use your wire cutters to cut the top of the wreath form, and you're gonna start lacing on your wood beads. Once you get it to the top, grab your hot glue and you're going to place it back exactly where it was before and let the glue dry before you move on. You're gonna repeat those steps on your wreath. I just love the way this pumpkin turned out. I hope you guys are able to recreate it. Last fall, one of my most popular projects was when I painted an owl and sanded it. So when I saw the fox this year, I said, hey, let's try the fox and see how that goes. So I went in with 2 coats of the white paint that I had picked up from Home Depot. And I do kind of regret picking that weight. I think it would have been better if I just used Waverly white paint, because Waverly white paint's a little bit easier to sand. Once it has a chance to dry, you're gonna come back in with sandpaper and you're gonna pull off all the details so that you can see the details in the ears, the nose, the eyes, around the tail, and it just kind of makes a cute little figurine. So here's how the fox turned out. For this next project, you're gonna need 2 of the orange jars and some fairy lights. Let's start with the lids. So I'm gonna use some acrylic paint and paint the lids with 2 coats of a brown paint. Now I wanted these to look a little bit more rustic, so I just found a stick in my backyard and I'm gonna use my saw to cut down 2 little handles. Now for my leaves, I found these really cool fall florals at Dollar Tree. I'm gonna cut off a couple of the leaves, hot glue those down, then I'll hot glue my stick in place. And then to make it look a little bit more rustic and realistic, I'll add in some Spanish moss. I added batteries to my lights, and I'm gonna place those into the jar, add the lids, and these look so cool lit up. What you're gonna need is 3 wood cutouts from Dollar Tree. You're also going to need something to hang them. I found these really awesome macrame hangers at Dollar Tree. You also need some fall paint. So go to Sherwin-Williams or Home Depot and pick out some fall colors that you love, that you wanna use in your crafts this year, and then get inexpensive paint samples. They're perfect to use in all your DIY crafts. Grab some wood filler and fill the holes on your wood cutouts. Next, you need to prep, because once you start down the road of paint pour, there's no turning back. Okay, that's a little dramatic, but you want to get all your supplies out. So I'm going to open the top of all of my paints, line them up. I'm also going to get out 3 disposable cups. You also want to use gloves because this is going to get messy. Next, I'm going to pour my paint into the disposable cups. You just want to pour a little bit in each cup, and remember, however much paint you put in there, that's going to be the main color on your item. So if you like a color more than others, just pour them depending on which color you want to see the most on your paint pour. Before you start pouring, make sure you get out a plate and a cup or something to sit on there that your paint pour can rest on. Then you're ready to start. So put your piece onto the cup, and you're going to take the cup with all of the paint in it, and you're just going to wiggle it on the top of whatever you're paint pouring. Once you get the majority of the paint on there, then this is the fun part. You can start moving it around to create those really fun lines and shapes that happen with a paint pour. You want to make sure that you cover your wood piece completely with paint. Now repeat this with all of the pieces that you're going to paint pour. From here, what you want to do is you want to let them sit on the cups to dry. This way, any excess paint will have a chance to just drop off, and make sure you give it at least overnight to dry. I really hope you guys are able to find these macrame hangers at Dollar Tree. I was so excited to find them. I'm gonna use these to hang up my paint pour pieces. So I'm just going to flip the pieces over on the back, and then I'll line up the macrame pieces. Once I have it where I want it to be, I'm gonna hot glue it on the bottom as well as the top. Once it has a chance to dry, I'm going to cut off the extra strands on the macrame, and then I'm gonna do the same thing on my other 2 paint pour pieces, making sure that I line them up as evenly as possible with the one I first created. My next tip is, how are you going to hang these pieces on the wall? So what I like to do is put everything on the floor. This way I can kind of map it out where it's going to look good. Next, you got to figure out how you're going to hang it. I'm going to be using these hooks from Dollar Tree. I'm actually going to place these behind my macrame pieces on the yarn. Then you can just simply pull the backing off and place them on your wall. Now the only item I'm not using from Dollar Tree is my bowl. Now this is a dough bowl. It's actually my mom's. I asked if I could borrow it, and I told her I would give it back to her with fall decor in it. If you don't have a bowl like this, that's okay. You can use anything that you have on hand. For this project, you're gonna need some kind of foam piece or something that your sticks can go into. So I'm gonna use 2 foam pieces at the bottom. Next, I'm going to space out my pumpkins. Since I bought a lot of different colors, I bought about 3 of each of the colors, and then I have more of the white. I'm gonna evenly space out the colors. As I was doing this, my foam pieces were kind of falling apart, so I hot glued them together. I just used some skewers to hold them together. Once I have all my color sticks in, then I'm going to sprinkle in the white ones. Next, I added in moss to cover up my foam pieces. And then to fill in the gaps around my pumpkins, I grabbed some leaves from Dollar Tree. So I'm gonna place those in around, and then I'm just gonna spread the leaves out so they're as full as possible. Another leaf I grabbed at Dollar Tree are these leather ones. These are completely new this year as well. So I'm going to add them in, hot glue them in place, just wherever I have holes or I think they might look nice. This is probably the most colorful centerpiece I put together. I think it looks awesome on my table. I've been seeing these wooden candle bowls everywhere. They're super cute, but they're very expensive. And I thought, you know what? I bet I could figure out how to make that for a fraction of the cost. So I went to the thrift store and I found this long wooden bowl. This was priced at $5.99, so a great deal. So the other items you're gonna need for this project is you're gonna need some tea lights. Now you don't need this many, you probably only need about 8 for this project. You're also going to need some scented wax cubes, and the one I got is the line dried linen scent. Now, if you have an old pot, that works best. This is one that I've melted candle wax in before. I'm gonna melt 4 of the value packs. I'm gonna use 8 tea light candles. So right now I'm just going to pop them out of their metal containers. So to do that, I'm just gonna push from the bottom. And then once you get it out a little bit, you can pull on the wick. Okay, so the wax is completely melted. So now I'm going to just lightly, not as lightly, pour it into the bowl. I let the candle set up for about 15 minutes. Now it's still liquid, but it's a little bit more firm and it's not as warm. I'm gonna start by putting in my tea lights throughout the candle. Now that everything's in there and it's setting up, I'm going back through and just pulling the wicks up gently. I'm using my tweezers.
Okay, so what's going on? How are we gonna fix the candle?
So when I was pouring the wax in, you guys, I got it along the edges here and like up here. So I was trying to figure out, okay, how do I fix this? So my first thought was, okay, what if I painted the wax along here? And Delaney's like,
That would make it worse. I think putting wax on the edges would make it way worse.
I would probably totally mess it up. Delaney said we could probably leave it the way it is, but I'm gonna try to add a little bit more wax really carefully around the edges to maybe fill up and meet this line. And hopefully that won't ruin what we've already done. So my tip whenever you guys are doing a candle like this is just be very, very careful when you're pouring the wax in so you don't have it splashing on the edges like I did. I'm gonna pour the extra wax into this disposable container so I have a little bit more control when I'm pouring. Okay, so I'm gonna let this set up. I feel like it's a little bit higher. We're not going to touch it until it's completely dry. I let the candle sit for about an hour and I am super impressed with it. I think it looks great. It's not perfect, but I love it. I'm gonna light all of the wicks. I wanted to show you guys how to put together a scented fall garland. So for this, you're going to need some cinnamon sticks. You're also going to need a bag of oranges and some bay leaves. You're gonna set your oven to bake at 200 degrees. Then we're going to be putting the oranges in the oven. I'm gonna put my oranges on these cooling racks so I don't have to place them directly on my oven racks, and then I just put a baking sheet underneath to catch anything that might fall. I'm gonna slice the oranges so that they're about 1/4 of an inch in thickness. And then I'll just place them on my cooling rack. And I'm gonna leave out the ends. They're ready to go. I'm gonna put them in the oven now. You're gonna keep them in the oven for 4 hours at 200 degrees, and then you just wanna flip them every hour. while the oranges are in the oven, I'm gonna work on the cinnamon sticks. All I'm gonna do is simply drill a hole in the center of my cinnamon sticks. That way, when I put everything together on the twine, I can just easily string in my garland. Now, if you don't wanna drill a hole, you could always tie it around the cinnamon stick as well. I'm gonna drill holes into 18 cinnamon sticks. So it's been 1 hour, so I'm just gonna go through and flip all of the oranges, and then I'll put them back in for another hour. So I'll do that every hour until I get to the 4-hour mark. I'm gonna put them back in the oven. I just pulled my oranges out. They're dried and ready to go, so now I can assemble my garland. So I'm gonna pull off a long piece of twine. The longer the better, because you don't wanna have to redo this. And I'm gonna cut that out. For this, I'm gonna use a large needle, and I'm just gonna thread the twine through my needle. I like to double up whenever I'm doing thread or twine, so I'm just going to double up the twine and tie it at the end. Okay, so now for the fun part, I get to assemble my garland. There's no right or wrong way to do this. You can really do it however you want. I think I'm gonna alternate between orange slices and my cinnamon sticks, and then every maybe, I don't know, 5 or 6, I'm gonna add in a bay leaf. Because I have more oranges than I have cinnamon sticks, I'm gonna like double up my oranges a few times, maybe add in like a larger one and a smaller one. Again, there's no right or wrong way to put this together. I'm always looking for activities that I can do with my kids, and this, you guys, smells so amazing. So it would be perfect to set out for fall. Okay, so once you get to the end, you don't have to do it tight or anything, just loosely put it how you want it, and then you can just tie it off at the end. But we should take it slow, work things out so you can hang it up, you could set it out on a kitchen tray, but a perfect garland for fall. For this next DIY, you're only gonna need 2 craft items, wood beads and some stems. So the wood beads I pick up are from Amazon. You can also get them at Dollar Tree, but I'm gonna start by hot gluing my wood beads together. So I'm gonna do 4 in a row, making sure that the holes are upright. And then I'm gonna do 3 more along the sides so that I have 4 on each side, and then I'll close it up to make a square, so each of my sides has 4 beads. Next, I'm gonna start building up my beads because I'm creating a vase. So I'll just hot glue the beads on top of the ones that I previously put down, and I'll also connect them together. This is really a fun project. You can make it as tall or as short as you want. I decided to go about 5 beads tall. Now, my favorite stems from Dollar Tree are these. I feel like they look so natural and so much more expensive than Dollar Tree florals. I'm going to cut those off at the bottom and use those in my vase. And here's how it turned out. So this next one, you're gonna need a clear jar. You're also going to need some glass paint. I'll link to the one that I picked up down below, but this is a really fun paint to use. You can use any color you want. I'm gonna use the 2 blue colors. With the middle section, I'm gonna use a paintbrush and paint on some of the lighter color blue. Now, some of my tips I wanna give you is that glass paint dries really quickly, so you wanna make sure you get all of the brush strokes out as you're going around. Do not wait and come back, because by the time you come back, you're not gonna be able to paint it. The other thing is, because it does dry quickly, if you want the color to be more intense, just add in a second coat. So after I did the blue lighter paint, I did on the bottom a darker color of blue. And then I did a second coat on the entire jar. I wanted this to have an ombre look, so I'm going to leave the top part of the jar completely clear. Let this dry completely, and I styled mine with some fall stems. I wanted to elevate this basket and create a planter, so I'm going to do my combination of E6000 and hot glue on the top portion of this riser. You guys ask me sometimes why I use E6000 and hot glue. Well, the hot glue is going to be an instant bond, while the E6000, it's going to take overnight to bond, but it's going to be a much stronger bond. It's going to help your piece hold together over time. I'm going to place the basket in the center of my riser. You may need to add something into your basket so that your plant is the right height. I'm just putting this bowl in upside down. Next, you can put in any plant of your choice. I grabbed these pumpkins that have a removable lid. They're ceramic. They come in a white or an orange color. I grabbed the orange. It doesn't really matter which color you get. Just grab 2 of them. So I'm going to start by putting some adhesive on the pumpkins to attach them together. Now you can use any adhesive you like, something that's real construction grade like E6000 or some kind of construction adhesive. I will link below the kind I'm using as well as any product I use in the video plus what I'm wearing. Anything you need to know will be down in the description box. So when I was putting the pumpkins together, I actually realized that I should put them to where the tops were together. They just laid a lot nicer, so I had to move it around and re-glue it. Now let that dry for several hours. So I really wanted to nail down my color scheme this year for fall. So what I did was I went to Sherwin-Williams and I picked out 6 different paint colors that were in the colors I was wanting to use for fall. To cut down on my cost of paint, I then purchased samples. Well, I guess Sherwin-Williams doesn't have samples right now, so I ended up having to go to Home Depot and I got all of these paints because you can take paint swatches from any company to any different store. I picked up samples of each of my paint colors. I think they were around $8 each and I got them in a flat finish. So these are the colors that I'm gonna be using throughout the whole season. To paint my pumpkins, I'm gonna be using this subdued color and I'm going to do 2 coats on all of the pumpkins. Once that dries, I'll use my construction adhesive glue to add on a white plate to the top. Now, if you haven't guessed yet, I'm making a fun centerpiece cake plate to put out in my kitchen. Once everything dries, just fill it with your favorite treats, and I love having this out on my kitchen table. Did you know Dollar Tree sells t-shirts? Like, that's crazy, $1.25 for a t-shirt. I picked up an inexpensive one and I'm gonna show you how to make a really cute shirt for fall. I'm also gonna purchase an SVG file off of Etsy. I'm gonna take the SVG file, upload it into my Cricut design space. I'll size it to the right size that I want so it's, you know, pretty large on my t-shirt. Then I'm gonna send it to cut. You also, when you're doing words, wanna make sure you do a mirror image. That way when you put the vinyl on, it's going to be the right side. Now I picked out 2 heat transfer vinyl colors to use that were cute fall colors. Now when you're doing a heat transfer, you want to make sure that you put it on the back side, so you're cutting the back side of the vinyl. After I cut the vinyl, I'm going to weed it out. Then I'm gonna take my t-shirt, put it on to my auto heat press. I'm gonna start by lining up my words. Now I don't really measure this, I just kind of put it where I think it's going to look good. I put a cover over it, slide it into the heat press. It's going to be at 305 degrees for 20 seconds. And because it has the auto feature, when it's done heating it up for 20 seconds, it's going to automatically raise it up. I'm gonna check and make sure that it's completely stuck down, and if it's not, just put it in for another 20 seconds. Next, I'm gonna add in some of the leaves and star embellishments and heat press those as well. How adorable is this shirt? And it cost me under $5. So Dollar Tree sells these foam pumpkins. They come in white and orange. The one I had was orange, and last year I painted it more of this cream color, but we're gonna be doing something completely different with it this year. So I'm gonna take the stem off the top. Next, I grabbed some yarn. Dollar Tree sells yarn as well. I'm gonna start with this kind of burgundy color yarn. I'm gonna hot glue my yarn doubled over to the back. And then I'm gonna simply just start wrapping it around my pumpkin. When I get to the end of my yarn, I will hot glue it to the back, and then I'm gonna keep doing this until I cover my entire pumpkin with yarn. Now I needed to figure out a stem for this pumpkin. So I had an older pumpkin that I wasn't using, so I pulled the stem off of that. You could also get a stick outside. Dollar Tree sells some of like those small sticks. You could use that as well. And I'm just gonna hot glue that to the top. Now it was looking a little unfinished, so I grabbed a leaf from one of my Dollar Tree stems and I'll hot glue that on there as well. And here's a look at my yarn pumpkin. I've really been into purchasing real eucalyptus lately, and my favorite place to grab it is at Trader Joe's. I love eucalyptus because it lasts so long, and whenever it dries out, it still looks really nice. Well, one of the things I've been seeing lately in high-end stores are colorful eucalyptus. So I wanted to show you how you could create the same look for less. So I grabbed the eucalyptus that had been in my home for probably 2 to 3 weeks, and I took it outside. I also grabbed like a little bit lighter than a navy color spray paint, and I'm gonna spray one side of the eucalyptus, and then I'm gonna flip it around. Now when you spray it, you wanna spray from the top so that it looks like the paint is coming down from the top, if that makes sense. And I'll just flip it over maybe 2 or 3 times and continue to add spray paint. And here's a look at how I displayed it in my home. Last time I was at Dollar General, I picked up this beaded wreath. Let's DIY it. I think the best new item out at Dollar General is this beaded wreath. It is so gorgeous for $10. I so hope that you guys can find it. Now, I really loved it just the way it was, so I just wanted to add a simple bow. You can use any ribbon. This ribbon is a fall ribbon from Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to tie a tight knot. Then I'm going to create a loop and tie a bow, pulling it so it's nice and fluffy. And the thing with bows is you just want to keep working with it and adjusting it until you get that desired look that you want. Then I will cut the tails off at an angle, trying to make them as even as possible. I'm going to hot glue the tails in place so it doesn't go anywhere. And this is a great item to hang anywhere in your home. You're gonna need a clear container and some twine. Start by cutting long pieces of your twine. You're gonna take 2 pieces of twine, hot glue them right underneath the lip of your jar. You're gonna do this all the way around your jar. Once you get that done, you're going to take 2 pieces, clamp them together, and hot glue them in place so you create kind of like a triangle. You're gonna repeat this step 2 times down on your jar. Once you get all of the twine to the bottom of your jar, you're going to pull 2 pieces together, cut it off in the center, and hot glue it in place. Repeat that all the way around. Next, wrap the top half of your jar with twine. And you can fill it with some of your favorite florals. I think this one looks really high end. So if you guys have been eyeing this wall art that I have over here, I'm gonna show you how to make that next. So I started by grabbing 3 white jars that I had. You can thrift these, you can use ones you already have. I used a pitcher and also like 2 little jars, so you probably already have something like this on hand. Next, you're going to need some sort of macrame cord. I will link to the one that I love down in the description box. It works awesome. So just go click the link down below and it'll take you straight to the one I use. So to create a macrame for each one of my pieces, I'm going to pull off 6 long pieces of macrame. Once you have your 6 strands, you're gonna start by tying a knot at the base. Then you can place that big knot on the bottom of your jar, and then you're gonna go around the edge and take 2 of the strands from 2 of the knots and tie those together, creating 3 more knots. And you'll repeat this again. You're gonna take 2 of the strands, tie them together, creating another knot. Now this should allow you enough knots to hold your vase in place. If you have a smaller container, you may not have to do it as far up. I know I usually try to tie the knots until I get to the top of the container. Next, I'm just going to gather those pieces together and then I will hang it on a stick that I cut down from my backyard. You can use any stick, anything you have. If you don't want to use a stick, you could use like a 1x2 board. This is literally a stick from my backyard. And I'm gonna tie it to that stick. Now I'll repeat those steps, putting the macrame together for all 3 of my containers. And I'll add those to my stick. You also kind of want to step back, so I kind of tied them loosely and figured out where I wanted the placement until I tied them really secure, so if I needed to move something. Next, I'll just trim off any excess pieces on the knot. I'm gonna start by adding in some neutral florals, but if you wanted to add in fall colors or blues and greens or any colors you love, you could totally do that. Dollar Tree also has these really fun pumpkins on a wood stick. I'm gonna place those in there as well. If any of them are too long, just trim the stick down to where you need it to be. You guys, I love the way this turned out. Let me know in the comments what you guys think about this, but this is probably my favorite project in this video. Next, I'm gonna show you how to make this adorable pumpkin garland. I found these pumpkin pom-poms in the fall section at Walmart. They come in a bunch of colors. I went with the yellows and oranges. I also picked up some black pipe cleaners, and that's what you're going to use first. So take your pipe cleaner and you're gonna fold it in half. Next, you're gonna make a 1-inch loop where your pipe cleaner is folded. Then you're going to twist the loop and hot glue it to the base of the stem. Then you're going to wrap around the excess pieces about 2 times. Then to curl them on the edges, I just grabbed a dowel rod and I'm gonna twist that on either side. And that's how you create a stem for your pumpkin that's gonna work for your garland. Repeat this step for all of your pom-poms. To attach them, you're going to need a long piece of twine. I'm also going to be using the fishing line that I was using earlier. So cut off a piece of fishing line, you're gonna loop it through that black stem loop that you created earlier, and then you're going to tie that tightly to your twine. Now you wanna make sure that your pom-poms are evenly spaced. So grab any object you had. I had this foam brush. I'm gonna set that in between my pumpkins, and then I'll attach my next pumpkin on using that foam brush as my spacer. And I'll repeat that until I have all my pumpkins added. These are great to hang up on your fireplace. You can also put them on a door. They're super festive. You guys know we couldn't get through this video without recreating a high-end find. And the find were these candles that I found off of Crate and Barrel. And I love this ombre look to them with the wood underneath. So I went to my thrift store trying to find something similar to this wood piece because I knew Dollar Tree wasn't going to have like a wood candle. I found these really inexpensive little wood candles. Honestly, you could grab any wood item from Dollar Tree, and I'll show you how to get this ombre look. So I started by placing tape around the center portion of each of my candles. I wanted them to be opposite of each other. So I wanted the paint to be on the top half of one and the paint to be on the bottom half of the other. Now, to get the majority of my paint on there, I needed to tape off one whole section of each of the candles. So I grabbed some craft paper and taped that around so that when I sprayed, that section would not get any paint on it. And then I took the candles outside and did 2 coats of spray paint on each of them. Next, I'm going to remove the tape once everything has dried. To get the ombre look, I honestly just held the candle holder in my hand and then I sprayed lightly along the edge, and that gave me that gradient look. You really don't have to add a lot of paint here. Honestly, less is more, and it doesn't take much, and then you have that ombre effect. And here's how they look styled together in my office. This basket, this is cute. So I made this into a little hanging sign. I love this basket. It was thrifted. I definitely think I could update this. So let's try to do something with this basket. Okay, so I removed the old sign that I had used previously. So I gathered some yarn that I felt like represented fall really well and some of the colors that I was drawn to, and I just cut them down into long pieces. And what I'm gonna do is I'm going to start in about the middle and hot glue 3 or 4 pieces to one side. I'm gonna wrap them around the side and then I'll just continue to hot glue. I'll come in with the green color next, and then go on to my brown color. I thought this basket would be really cute to add in some florals and make a wall arrangement. These stems I picked up last year from Dollar Tree, but they have a ton of different variety to choose from for the fall. With the stems, I put them a little off center so you were able to see the basket behind them. This next project, you're gonna grab 3 jars and 3 sets of the LED fall lights.
A cool kind of melody. You rattle my cage without warning.
We're gonna start by painting the tops in an ivory color. So I'm just gonna do 2 coats of paint on the top of the jars.
You'll find a different side of me, the one I'd like to be, a different side of me, yeah. You'll find a different side of me, like someone pretty.
Now with the bottom section, I'm going to spray paint these in a frosted color. It's a color called Ice. Now I did have to buy this spray paint off of Amazon. It's not available in stores anywhere where I live, so I'll link it for you down below. Once everything has dried, I'm gonna add my batteries to the LED lights, and then I'm gonna put 1 set in each of my containers.
The one I'd like to be, a different side of me, yeah, yeah. You'll find a different side of me, like someone pretty need, a different side.
Now I was trying to figure out how I wanted to hang these, so I ended up using twine, and I'm just going to get 3 long strands, and I'm gonna tie 3 strands around each of my containers.
shedding skin. The layers are peeled away. Got me.
And then I'll pull those 3 strands up and tie them in a knot at the top to hold it in place. Now I did that for all 3 of the containers, and here's how they look styled and all lit up. For this next project, I grabbed a grouping of bottles from Dollar Tree, and really you could grab anything you want, vases, bottles, whatever look you're going for. And with one of the bottles, I had to take off the silver piece at the top. I really love the look of amber glass, and I found this spray paint online that's like an amber spray paint. I was wondering if I tried the amber look, how it would turn out. So I took all of my glass pieces outside and I'm gonna spray paint them. Now, one of the things I learned is you want to do thin coats and let them dry between each coat. That's going to give you a better indication of how it looks because you want it to have that see-through element to it. I would say in the end, I probably did 3 coats, but they were very thin coats. I think these amber bottles look great with your other decor. Add them with some pumpkins and you have a really cute display. My favorite things to create in the fall is wreaths, but I wanted to give you some other options you could create with florals that were actually, really neat large wall pieces. So I came up with this idea, and honestly, I love the way it turned out. And it's a massive piece of wall art. So you're going to want to go to Dollar Tree, Walmart, Hobby Lobby, anywhere that you can purchase florals. You're gonna gather some large fall color florals that you think will work together. I'm gonna start with these 2 large bundles. These are actually from Hobby Lobby, and I'm gonna take those large bundles and put the bottom portions together so that the top of the stems are pointing one way on one of the bundles and the other way on the other. I'm going to take the zip tie that was already on the bundle and I'm just going to zip tie these 2 together. Now I wanted the edges of my branches to kind of be spread out at the end. So as I was doing this, I was kind of spreading the branches out on either side. Next, I came in with some wheat style branches from Hobby Lobby. I cut them off the stems and I just placed them where I thought they looked nice.
We got one summer, so let's make it count. You make me feel like everything.
And then I used my hot glue gun to hot glue them underneath those existing stems. You want to make sure that you tuck that bottom piece so that you don't see it. And then Dollar Tree has these gorgeous stems out right now that I'm so in love with them. They're so natural and beautiful looking. I'm gonna take 3 of those and place those in my arrangement. The more variation and texture that you can have, the more fuller your display is going to look. Next, I flipped a piece on the front and I wanted to cover up that center area. So I grabbed a couple of those wheat branches. I twisted them together so you couldn't see the bottom ends and then hot glued that in the center. So that's gonna cover up any imperfections from where I was gluing or zip tying. Next, I'll flip the entire piece on the back, and as I was doing this, some of the pieces were kind of coming undone, so then I went in with some additional hot glue just to really reinforce things. You could also add in zip ties on the back as well. Now to hang this, I wanted it to look really natural, so I grabbed some of my nautical rope. I'll link the one in the description box that I use, and I'm going to just be hot gluing it to the sides of my branches. So in order for it to stay, I'm really gonna have to get that glue on several of the branches so that the nautical rope can hold and be secure in place. You can hang this on your wall with a simple nail. I hung this up in my bedroom. It is massive and I just love it. You guys are gonna have to let me know what you think of this piece down in the comments. So So one of the items I create a lot of on my channel are garlands, and I do a lot of wood bead garlands. So I wanted to switch it up and give you guys another option for a garland you could create for your home. So we're gonna be making a clay garland. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna purchase a clay. I really like this Crayola one. I get it in the color white off of Amazon. I'll link it for you below. But essentially you're going to need 3 packages for this. So just one of the containers you buy off of Amazon will be plenty. I think 4 bags come in one container. So I'm going to start by creating 1-inch balls for all of the garland. Then I went and grabbed some skewers. These were ones that I picked up from Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to take them and press the skewer through the middle of my clay ball. Then I will just leave it on there. I'm gonna twist the skewer in it a little bit just to make sure when I go back through with my twine, I'll be able to do that easily. So you're gonna repeat this several times until you have the desired amount you're going for.
Regrets, girl, put your faith in me, even though we just met. Let's forget about our curfew, cause all that is stuck in my head. It's me and you, both speeding, my heart is racing, but I'm not sure I want.
Next up is painting. So once everything has a chance to dry, you're gonna come back in and paint. I chose 4 of the different colors that I had picked out for this look. So I'm gonna paint 2 coats of paint. Now I want this to be kind of rustic, so I was okay if the paint wasn't perfect on this. This is kind of personal preference here, so if you want it to be more finished, maybe, make sure you do other coats. Now it's great painting them on these skewers because then you can just put them on something to dry, and I'll let them dry completely.
Make out for the thrill of it, mess around for the thrill of it. Don't stop now, never let this end. For the thrill of it, we can have it, no regret. We make out for the thrill of it, mess around for the thrill of it. Don't.
Next, I'm going to be using a pretty firm twine to put my garland on, and I'm simply going to string the different clay balls that I created onto the garland. Once I was doing this, I realized that I didn't really like how the red balls were looking in this grouping. I decided I wanted to keep it more muted, so I simply just took them off and I used the 3 colors I had. Sometimes you just have to make adjustments when you see it all put together.
Live life without regrets, girl, put your faith in me, even though we just met. Let's forget about our curfew.
Now you could add tassels to the end. I decided not to do that, so I grabbed some of my thicker twine and I just tied it in a knot about 3 times at the end. I cut off any excess. Because I was going to be hiding the knots, I didn't really feel like I needed to do tassels, but you could always do tassels at the end. And this is how it looks styled on a table in my living room. So for our next project, we're gonna create perfect wall art for fall. Love the way this turned out. Now you're going to pick up 2 oval or circular frames for this. I had trouble finding any at Dollar Tree. I know they've had them in the past, but I ended up purchasing mine off of Amazon. I'll link the ones that I picked up down below. Next, I wanted to create a silhouette of a bird. So I went back in the Cricut design space and I typed in new project and I went in to look for, the best one that I could find. And this was kind of a fun process. Once I found the one that I wanted, I just brought it into the design space. And again, all you have to do is resize it. Super simple. Now I was going to be creating 2 of these, so I ended up duplicating it and then I sent it to print. And again, I'm going to cut it out on that black smart vinyl and you're just going to run it through your machine. Now I decided I wanted to place these birds on some scrapbook paper. I have a ton of scrapbook paper in my stash, so I just grabbed 2 colors that I thought would work great for this project. You could use any paper. You could also use fabric for this. I kind of thought about using fabric, and at the last minute I was like, no, I'm not gonna use fabric. But really, endless, you could use like old music notes. I thought that would be really cool as well. I did something similar to that last year, so I try to do new stuff for you guys, but there's really a lot of possibilities here. So I'm gonna trace around the scrapbooking paper, then you're gonna cut it out, and then I'm gonna eyeball the birds on there. You guys know that I don't do a lot of measuring, so I'm just gonna place them on there and try to get them about the same height. Then I'll put the scrapbook paper back into the frames. And here's how they look styled on my shelf. Whenever I create these Dollar Tree DIYs, they're actually like several days of working on these projects, just from coming up with the ideas, shopping for items, creating the items, doing the voiceover that I'm doing now. So it's actually quite a process. And there's always one project that really just kind of throws me off, or I just struggle with it. For this video, it was this macrame pumpkin. I was having trouble figuring out how to wrap the macrame on there. I really wanted it to be vertical and it just wasn't working out. So I think I figured out how to do it where it went around horizontally. So you guys will have to let me know what you think of this. So you're gonna grab just any pumpkin you have in your stash. Honestly, this was one that I had that was like left over from last year. I'm gonna be using the same macrame cord that I use in a lot of my projects, a lot of my wall hangings, and I'll link it for you guys down below. But if you've done any of these similar projects, you probably have this on hand. And I'm gonna start at the base of the pumpkin, wrapping the macrame around, kind of like how I did with the nautical rope on the rope tray. You're just gonna start hot gluing and wrapping it around. I'm gonna keep hot gluing, not worrying if I get it down into the grooves of the pumpkin, because I found that it naturally just kind of laid down there as I was going. And the thing I'm gonna do at the end is gonna help that as well. So I'm gonna continue to wrap this around until I get to the top, and I'm gonna hot glue it in place. Next, I wanted to create vertical lines. So I grabbed that same nautical rope and I pulled apart 3 different strands from one piece of nautical rope. I'm gonna hot glue one edge of the string, wrap it around, and then hot glue it to the bottom. Now I did this with 3 strands so that I had 6 vertical stripes. To top it off, I like to use sticks at the top just to add that natural element. So I grabbed a stick from outside. Dollar Tree also has these available, so you can grab those as well. And I just hot glued it to the top. I think in the end, it turned out okay. It was not a fail, but it was a little tricky to figure out. Dollar Tree has been awesome lately with their frames. When I came across these 3 gold ones, I knew I had to pick them up. Now I love shadow frames like this because you can really do some simple projects or you can make them more personal. I wanted to do something for you guys that would be great for fall, so I grabbed some different garlands that they had at Dollar Tree in different fall colors. From there, I'm gonna take off the back glass piece and I'm gonna pull the cardboard off. Now underneath the cardboard there was this little like sticky piece, and so that was actually all the glue that I needed to put the leaves on. Now I'm going to cut off 3 of the leaves that I think will be great displayed in these frames. So once I put the leaf on, I put it back into the frame. And I repeated this for the other 2 frames. And I think this display of 3 looks perfect on my shelf for fall. I think that I've really been into florals this fall. I have this one set of florals that I just love from Dollar Tree. I wish I would have picked up just a million of them because they're so nice and natural. So I just wanted to display these in my living room. So I grabbed a Dollar Tree vase. This is one they have at most stores, so hopefully you can find it. I'm simply going to grab some twine. I'm gonna hot glue my twine around the base of this glass jar. This is a really easy DIY that I like to do that I think just really gives something extra to your florals. It also covers up that bottom portion. When you put your florals into a clear vase, I don't necessarily like seeing them at the bottom. I think this kind of makes it look a little bit more finished, so that's why I like to do that. Next, I'm going to put the florals I grabbed at Dollar Tree into the vase, and I'll show you how I styled them in my living room. So a few months back, I created a paint pour vase, and I was reading the comments. You guys loved it. I read all your comments, so make sure you leave me a comment. And so when I was coming up with fall projects, I thought, you know, what if we recreated that on another Dollar Tree item? So when I was shopping at Dollar Tree, I came across this huge tray. This is probably the biggest tray that I've ever seen at Dollar Tree. But I grabbed this gray tray and I decided to do a paint pour on it. So in order to do a paint pour, what you're gonna do is just grab a collection of paints, and you're gonna start by pouring white into your first cup. Then you're just going to add in additional paints. There's really no rhyme or reason to it, but you just wanna switch off sporadically so you get a variety of paints. Now I decided, since this was a big tray and I kind of had a small cup, that I was going to do 2 cups worth of this. Then you want to put some kind of container that you can start pouring on. So I just grabbed this bowl that I had in my stash. It's from Dollar Tree, and I put it in the center of the tray. Now here is the fun part. I started to pour the paint on there, and then as I'm doing it, I kind of swiggle my hands and I swirl them around. This is just gonna add a little bit more texture to your paint pour and a little bit more interest. Once you have all your paint on there, you can remove that center item that you used, a cup or whatever. Make sure you have something underneath that can take all of this paint, because there's going to be a lot of excess paint. Then you're simply going to pick up your tray, move it around until you get that desired look that you're wanting, and you cover every inch of the tray. So I kind of had to move it around, cover the handles. You want to get all of the excess paint off of there. You don't want too much paint on there. Once it's, looking the way you want it to look, set it and let it dry overnight. It's probably not gonna dry within a day, so just let it dry overnight. Now, since this was a tray that I was going to be using, I wanted to seal it. So I came in with my water-based sealer, did one coat on it. And here's a look at how the tray turned out. So next up, we're gonna be creating a rope tray. So you wanna grab a clear tray from Dollar Tree. You're also gonna grab some nautical rope. Now, Dollar Tree does sell nautical rope, but I prefer to pick it up off of Amazon. It's just cheaper and you get a ton and you can use it for multiple projects. So I'll link to the specific one I use in the description box. So to create this rope tray, you're just gonna start in the center, hot gluing it. And you're going to hot glue as you keep tightly wrapping the rope around. Now you wanna make sure that there's no gap so you don't see the clear tray underneath, and you want to add just a small bead of glue. You don't want your bead to pop up and you see it outside of your tray.
How did you stop loving me? How is that even possible?
Now, once you get to the edge, you want to go around completely so that you cover up all of your tray again. Once it's completely covered up, you're going to take that excess, cut it off, and then you can glue it to the back. Now for this rope tray, I wanted to try painting on it, so I decided to create some circles along the edge. So what I did to start with is I just kind of grabbed some painter's tape and I was eyeballing my spacing around the edge to see how many circles I would need to create. Then I grabbed some cardboard and I just cut out a circle template. This wasn't super precise, I just tried to make it as even as possible. Then I made sure that that cardboard template was gonna work all around the edge. Next, I'm going to be using those fall colors that I told you about earlier that I picked up, and I'm just going to randomly select a color to place around on these larger circles.
How could we move on? Why you wanna let me go now? Are you saying that to change your mind? Well, have a pity, let me know now.
Now, whenever you're painting on fabric or rope, you want to make sure you use quite a bit of paint because that fabric and rope are really going to suck up those paints. So make sure you use quite a bit of paint.
Are you saying that to change your mind? Well, have a pity, let me know now. 'Cause your love made me go.
Now let that completely dry, and then I decided I wanted to go back in and make some smaller circles. I created a new template that I could use that I could place on top of my existing circles. And then I'm just going to come back in with contrasting fall colors and paint those on the existing circles.
Why you wanna let me go now? Are you saying that to change your mind? Well, have a pity, let me know.
Once you're done, let that dry, and here's a look at my fall rope tray. I love whenever I'm shopping at Dollar Tree and I come across an item and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is gonna make a perfect DIY. That's what happened when I saw these 3 domes. I actually picked up 6 of them so I could use them again for Christmas DIYs, so be on the lookout for those, but if you see these, grab them. I wanted to show you a fun DIY that you could do for fall, but honestly it would work pretty much any time of the year. So I'm gonna start by disassembling the bases from the plastic tops. I'm gonna spray the bottom halves with an ivory color. Now, if you're wondering where to get spray paint, my favorite brand is Rust-Oleum, and I typically buy it at Walmart. One of my tips when it comes to spray paint is pay attention to the finish that you're buying, not just the color. Do you want it to have a flat, matte appearance, or do you want it to be more glossy? So think about that before you purchase the spray paint. With this one, I went with a more matte finish. So next I'm gonna grab some stems that I had on hand. Now you can grab anything you want. I grabbed these eucalyptus, I'll link them for you down in the description box, and I'm simply going to place them in my dome so that they fit kind of perfectly, and then I'm gonna clip them at the bottom. Now these little bases are really cool because they have this little center thing that's perfect for a stem. So they stuck right inside, I didn't have to glue them or anything, and then I just put the tops on. And I repeated this for the other two domes. Now this is a super simple DIY, but how elegant does this look sitting out on your shelf or in a display? We're gonna be creating a wreath. I grabbed this set of 3 wreath forms from Dollar Tree. Now, if you're unable to find it, there's something similar that Walmart sells in like their floral section, but if you can grab it at Dollar Tree, it's less expensive. We're gonna be using the larger wreath form, and I'm just gonna start by using my wire cutters to cut it apart. Next, I'm going to add in some wood beads. These are actually larger wood beads than I've used before, and I'm gonna link this new set that I picked up down in the description box. Now, the set I got actually came with quite a few beads. I didn't use but maybe a fourth of the beads for this particular project. I'm just gonna start by stringing all of the beads on.
Thrill of it, mess around for the thrill of it. Don't stop now, never let this end. For the thrill of it, we can have it, no regret. We make out for the thrill of it, mess around.
Once you're finished adding in all your wood beads, you're going to add some hot glue to the end of the bead and just hold them together to close it back up. Now, if you want it to be super strong, you could always add in E6000 for that extra bonded hold. With the beads, you could definitely leave them natural, but I decided I wanted to stain them, and I wanted a really dark stain. So I grabbed one of my espresso stains that I had in my collection. I'm gonna use a foam brush to wipe it onto the beads, and then I'll come back in with a paper towel and just pull off any excess stain. Whenever you pull off the excess stain, that's when the wood grain is gonna start showing through, and you're gonna get that dimension in your wood piece. So I really like to make sure I take off any excess stain. If you're not a fan of the dark stain, you could always go lighter and change it up depending on your preference.
Let's forget about a curfew, 'cause all that is stuck in my head. It's me and you, both speeding, my heart is racing, but I'm not sure I wanna face it, 'cause it only does this with you. Our bodies meet, I can feel the tension, move us into the next dimension. Let's just let our bodies be true.
Once your stain has a chance to dry, you're gonna grab some Dollar Tree stems. I was really excited to find these natural looking stems at my Dollar Tree, so I picked up a couple of them, and I'm gonna be using 2 sets for the base. Anytime you're creating a wreath, you want to think about what you're going to be using as your base, and then you can always add your filler elements on top of it. So these 2 like wood type florals are going to be my base. So I'm going to lay them down on either side of my wreath, hot gluing them in place. I also grabbed some Dollar Tree leaves and pumpkins and wanted to add those in the center. These are those filler pieces that are going to like cover up where you had to glue things. I'm gonna add in these florals and the pumpkins. Now from here, you're gonna take a step back, see what you need to add. I wanted to add it in a few more leaves, and then I also decided to grab some of these acorns that I picked up this fall from Dollar Tree. I'm gonna place those in as well.
Put your faith in me, even though we just met. Let's forget.
I'll cut off the excess at the bottom. Once you're happy with the overall appearance, that's all you have to do. And I really love how this wreath turned out. You guys are gonna have to let me know what you think of it.